What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's time for episode 42 of Tigers Franchise. We are here in late May, coming off of a 4-game losing streak where we've just fallen 2 games behind the Kansas City Royals, not the Minnesota Twins. In fact, they're struggling a little bit at 22 and 25 here, 7.5 games back. So we've got a lot to get into. What I want to do this episode is something that we haven't really done, which is go team by team and just kind of get the vibe of where everybody's at. You know, we're in 2028. I think we do a decent job keeping up with things with those August and September run-throughs because we're really deep diving those teams that we're playing. But those are just the teams that we're playing. A lot of it's confined to the division. Sometimes we branch out to the National League, but we play a lot of American League as well. But we're really in tune with the Royals, White Sox, Twins, and Guardians, mostly with them being our division foes. We'll still cover them here, but I want to just go over every team, just kind of see what's up. I do want to give you some updates on other things. First off, I promised a down on the farm report during the off season. Because it ended up being a much busier off season than expected, I didn't do that. That'll be next episode. So we are here on May 22nd. I plan to get, whether we do it here this episode, I don't know if we're going to sim, how many games we're going to sim, if any. But after that, I would plan to get, say, to around mid-June here. June 15th is an off day, somewhere around there, where I would pick up and then do an on the farm report, give an idea of what the farm system looks like. But we do have other things to get into right now as well. Let's go over April. We went 19 and 10, if you count the one March game as well, which we're going to. We were first in runs scored, tied for 5th in runs allowed. Riley Green opened up the season with a 22-game hit streak, which is pretty cool. It's not, it just shows you how amazing the Joe DiMaggio 56-game hit streak was, because 22 isn't even in the state of the ballpark, let alone in the ballpark. I'm not sure it's in the country of the state of the ballpark that a 56-game hit streak is in, and it's still awesome. Like, 22 is really cool. So, shouts to him on that. It's just funny how little of a blip it is, even at 22. But he got right back on another streak here. It looks like he snapped it there on 424, put together a nice little, I'm eyeballing it, like another 10-pack, 2 games off, and he's currently in another 7-gamer right now. Bottom line, Riley Green off to an amazing start this year, pacing for 8 wins with a 174 WRC plus. Good thing we weren't able to re-sign him this offseason. I'm sure it's going to be really cheap now. Not that it was ever going to be, but it's going to be even more expensive. Let's see. Colton Hartman had a 20-gamer that was snapped on 427. So he didn't start the season with it like Riley Green did, but he got a nice little hit streak going, a lot of multi-hit games in there. He's also off to a wonderful start, a 146 WRC plus with 9 bombs, doing very well for us, Colton Hartman, as a DH. And then I wanted to point out that Spencer Torkelson is just a god. 14 homers, 51 ribbies. He's been out of his mind. Also a free agent, also going to cost everything. We'll see how that's going to go. He now has a 9 RBI lead on Yan Diaz with Tampa Bay for the AL lead, and an 8-run lead on Jesse Jakonski of Colorado for the overall RBI lead. He's just been on fire. Our offense has been pretty nice. In fact, I would be surprised if we don't still have, a bunch of great ratings here as we get through most of May. Even though we're only 9 and 10, it really hasn't been the offense. I'm seeing a lot of double-digit scores across the scoreboard here as we were going through this, as I was going through the games offline, and it's been great. But the pitching does need to kind of catch up a little bit, and I do have confidence that it will. Paul Skeens is working out brilliantly. He's been amazing. Unfortunately, Skubal and Stone, the 2 guys that we looked at as our horses prior to that, they really haven't been. 5.10 ERA for Skubal, 6.42 for Gavin Stone. What the heck is going on there? A 380 BABIP plays a role, so does a 1.5 homer 9. Those are both factors that hopefully improve, because yikes. Anyway, as we move on here, before we get into every team, I got a few other things. First off, CJ Weens, sleeper agent. He's got a 5.16 ERA, 1.28 whip. I'm not overly concerned about that, except he got cooked by New York. 3 runs in 2 1/3. He's cheating. He's cheating for him. That's all there is to it. Now, actually, that kind of spurred a lull here. He was fine in May. The ERA wasn't great, 4.11, But then after he gave up runs in those games, he gave up 3 against the White Sox here, 2 and 3 in back-to-back outings at Pittsburgh. It's just been up and down right now for Weens. He really isn't dominating the way I'd hoped. He does still have a 26% strikeout minus walk, though. And I just can't get over that. Like, that's amazing. 56% left on base rate tells me there's been some bad luck there, some tough sequencing. Sure, some of it's on him. You don't just wipe everything away due to one stat and say, oh, this guy's been unlucky, he's not contributing to it. But you look at things and you compare it to historicals and how that stat usually plays out, and you can make a case that, okay, he is being a little bit unlucky here, because normally guys with his skill set aren't going to only strand 56% of their base runners. It's usually closer to like 72%, and as you can see here, last year he was at 80%. So I'm not worried about Weens. I just want to make that joke about him being a sleeper agent for the Yankees. Oh, we got a bad newsletter for a player, but it did remind me to take a look at him. Jared Schuster got hurt. He's going to be out for a year with the Cubs, but we traded him early. Remember, we traded him pretty early in the sim. Traded for him, I should say, from the Braves for Michael Lorenzen and Troy Melton, when I thought that, he could maybe be something for us. Actually never ended up even pitching for us in the majors. We then flipped him along with Cole Stupp for Kevin Alcantara and Pablo Aliendo, 2 guys I really liked. Kevin Alcantara, he showed some promise there in 2025. Didn't really keep it going there in 2026, and then was part of the Shosei Watanabe deal. And then Pablo Aliendo just didn't really come together the way I have seen him do so in previous sims. He ends up getting moved over to Minnesota in the Brooks Lee deal, so we certainly don't regret that. But Jared Schuster had kind of established himself a bit with the Cubs, and so that's nice to see. I liked him as an arm. I thought he was going to be able to deliver this kind of value for us, sort of that mid-rotation, more straddling the 3-4 starter line as opposed to the 2-3. You can see here, though, 2027, really good, 3.58 ERA, 1.17 WHIP. So he was getting better. And it is definitely unfortunate to see him cut down in his age 29 season. He's going to miss a ton of time, probably a lot of next year as well. So bummer for him, but did want to update since I was a player we used to have. Oh, did my mouse just die? That is really bad timing. I have a spare that is right here on the desk, but it is so much worse that I'm actually just going to connect this one to the charger and awkwardly use it while we're going here, because I am not switching. Oh god, I don't think the cord's long enough, y'all. Oh god, what am I gonna do? Do I dare just use it on top of the desk here like a freaking dweeb instead of down where? Yeah, I guess that's what we're going with. I mean, like I said, I got the backup. This mouse is fine. It's fine. But it is so much smaller that the feel is so different, and getting used to it when I do have to use it. Like, that's usually my travel one too. Who gives a shit? Sorry, I'm getting derailed, but I'm just going to use this weirdly on top of my desk instead of down here where I normally would. Anyway, let's get into the teams. I think that, oh, one other thing. After we got swept, I was checking the White Sox. I was like, oh, how's Colson Montgomery doing? Still a god. Still a god. 160 WRC plus, already 2 WAR, pacing for 7, has 15 bombs. Now, I didn't check this and then say, oh, I regret not doing that deal. Don't forget, y'all, he was still, or is still, slated to make 44 mil in 2031 and 32. We just could not do that deal. But I did want to check in and see if he was still cooking. He is. That deal is just terrifying. It goes from 12.5 this year to 26. Like, he doubles just next year, then adds another 10, and then 9. Like, it's nuts. But he is awesome. So shouts to him on that at least. All right, so let's go team by team and just get the lay of the land on how everybody's doing. Oh, one last thing. Do we have any injuries to update, John? Pacheco and Orelvis are hurt. Pacheco out for a little bit more, strained oblique, but it had minimal on everything, hitting, throwing, and running. So I did decide to put him on the IL there. Maybe could have played through it, but he's playing so well. I don't want to disrupt his season. Put him on the IL. He'll be back soon. Not too bad. But Orelvis fractured his wrist. Now, he was not playing very well. And I remember, talking him up as opposed to, who was it that we were maybe going to get? Was it India? No, it had to have been somebody else. I can't remember who. But I was like, why not just keep a Relvis instead of getting this guy who costs like 16 mil? So that wasn't India. He didn't cost 16 mil. I can't remember who it was. But either way, at least so far through 66 plate appearances, which is a tiny, worthless sample, he was not doing very well. And now he has a fractured wrist. That'll keep him out for another 3 weeks. Now we finally get into the teams here, and we'll go by standings. So we'll start in the East. Tampa Bay Rays are 31-16. They got a 4-game edge over both the Yankees and Blue Jays, who are tied behind them. Now, we do have a lot of experience with them, and some of these teams that we are more in tune with, we'll go a little quicker on them because we know we've played them in the playoffs, and so we've kept tabs on them. We've played the Rays in the playoffs twice, so we know about this core. In fact, it's a lot of the same core that we've seen in the playoffs. They've really kept this team together here. They got Will Smith, who's now back at the starting catcher. I can't remember who was catching ahead of him, but remember we were like, how is he their backup? But now he's making 44 mil. You got to play him when he's making that kind of money. He's been okay. He's been okay. He really struggled when he got there last year. And then this year he's league average with the bat so far. That's pretty tough for 44 mil when you only put up a 55 catcher ability. So, I mean, I love Will Smith in real life. He is an absolute stud, but man, I just don't think the Rays would be paying. Okay, so they're only paying just over half. They're paying 55% of this. I see that now. Still, they're still getting cooked on that. That's still too much. Who was the catcher they had? It wasn't Pozo, was it? No. Who was starting for the team last year? I think we can find that. We go to history. We go positional starters. Yes. Was it just Hedges? Was it just that they were playing Hedges over Smith and Smith was like DHing and playing part-time? Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Either way, he's playing now. He's super expensive. Curtis Mead, we're very familiar with. He's awesome. 132 WRC plus. Marcus Semien, we knew that they got him because I very much lamented that deal. I was like, man, we could have given a Carlos Colmenares type who's, a solid glove up the middle, but doesn't really bring any sort of bat. We could have found a guy like that, I feel like, to get Marcus Semien. He's come over here. He's, kind of a league average guy, but we needed somebody who could play the infield, really maybe dominate against lefties, and start sparingly against righties. We could have absolutely done that with him, even at 20 mil, because Texas paid for all of it. So even if we could have gotten him to pay for some of it. So I was pretty jealous of that deal for Texas, or for Tampa Bay. Ocknarf, we know that that's shitbag McGee. Kept him in the game just to not totally ruin the Rays. Not that, they don't necessarily deserve anything. They also don't deserve heat, that unless we find out that they did anything untoward as far as keeping this under wraps. Then we can go after the organization. But anyway, I just changed his name, and I'm not interested in really getting into it, but it seems like Wander Franco, is obviously who this is supposed to be, is fucked. Deservedly so, I'm saying. He did some really heinous shit. So, see ya. Never come back. That's pretty easy one there. Royce Lewis over at short. Love him. I talked about him when we were playing him in the playoffs. Somebody I get in a lot of the sims. I didn't in this one because, hey, I don't have to get him in every single sim. What did they give for him again, though? I don't remember that. Oh, yeah, it was the McClanahan deal. So that was a pretty huge deal. Oh, McClanahan's out for 11 months. April 23rd, he ripped his elbow. Okay, that's probably part of why the Twins are struggling. That's a pretty big deal. We would have learned that when we went to the Twins, but wow. And then Jackson Chourio, remember they housed him from Milwaukee. Or excuse me, they got him from the Yankees because Milwaukee traded him for DJ LeMahieu. I knew he was stolen, but I forgot how badly he was stolen. That one's even more frustrating than the Semien deal. Mason Hour, badass center fielder that they have, still very good. Had a down year with the bat last year, down to 94 WRC plus, but back up to 113 so far this year. Plays strong defense, great base runner, brings a lot to the table. And then Yan Diaz, this absolute stud, is still just 25 years old on league minimum contract, terrorizing the league offensively. Not a great outfielder, but also not terrible. He is just, And I don't even think we've seen the best of him yet. Maybe it is the defense, because I'm looking at this offensive production. How is he only a 4-5 win guy? Where's that big, 6-7 win season? Maybe it's because he doesn't bring any defensive value. I don't know. But it is a little bit surprising that we haven't seen that mega season. But he's still just 25 too, so keep that in mind. And then Brandon Lau DHing, dominating so far, 180 plate appearances with a 138 WRC plus. Still really just needs to play against righties, but not a bad platoon. Although making 25.2 mil for 20 more years. Oh my God, this contract. Okay, Tampa Bay would never do that. They would never. But hey, I can't, make every team run like it does in real life. But they would never in a million years do that. I am impressed with how much they've kind of kept this team together, though. This is really not that different from the team that we faced in the playoffs outside of Semien. On the pitching side, Rasmussen, Boz, those have been stalwarts for him. Kyle Nicholas, I want to say he made the playoff rotation or was slated to, and I was like, why is this guy going to be in the rotation? And then they took him out. I think that's what happened, if I recall correctly, because we were looking over the team and he was in one of the spots and I was like, what? But now he has one of their rotation spots. Joseph Hernandez, some guy from their minor leagues who is off to an amazing start right now. I'm not sure it's going to hold up. He's a 50, 50, 55. He's decent. He can have a nice run, but his skills, he's a 9% strikeout minus walk. There's regression incoming. And then Chris Calhoun is their fifth starter. He's probably better than the guy we just looked at. In fact, undoubtedly. He's undoubtedly better skill-wise, 50, 60, 55. So he's probably the number 3 in terms of pure talent. But the bottom line is this rotation is a little sketchy because Boz, he's supposed to be one of the studs. He's having a rough one. And then Rasmussen, he's got a great ERA at 3.14, but a 147 whip and just a 10% strikeout minus walk. He's a little flimsy too. So their rotation, I think it leaves some things to be desired. Their bullpen, interesting. It's a bullpen. It's whatever. They got some guys overperforming. They got some guys doing fine. Like this Nathaniel Heredia out of his gourd right now. 0.96 ERA, 0.80 whip. After putting up a full season almost exactly like that last year for the Mets. Okay, this guy's a stud. Normally you see that in 19 innings and you're like, okay, that's a hot run. Shouts to him, but it's not going to hold. Well, maybe it is. The crazy thing right now is he has a 4% walk rate with a 35 control rating. Either he needs to be rescouted and that control rating is going to go through the roof, or he's been riding a hot streak. Also, he was waived on April 4th of this year. Why? Why would the Mets do that coming off of this season? I know relievers move around a lot. You put up a season like that, you at least get the leash of another season, right? You get to fail a little bit before a team is just going to unceremoniously waive you. So waivers are still a deal in this game that needs to tighten up. Needs to tighten up for sure. And this video will be 700 hours if I take this long on every team. This was supposed to be one of the quick teams. So might end up doing an AL, NL, but we'll see how it goes. The Yankees are next, another team that we played in the playoffs, and we played them just last year. So I promise that this one will be a quicker one. Looking at the squad, they got Dingler starting, our boy. Oh, and of course, he goes here and has a great season. 122 WRC plus, 1.3 WAR so far. It's early, but that's kind of funny. Will Banfield, the greatest hitter in the history of baseball. If you don't remember, he ate our lunch in the playoffs last year. Just destroyed us. And what's funny is this doesn't even look that good. It's a 103 WRC plus with 3 homers. You're like, what are you talking about? What are you whining about? It was all against us. He had like a 301, like reversed the WRC plus against us with all 3 of the homers. It's just that he sucked in the next round to bring the numbers back down. Goldie, we've talked about Goldie. He's a Timex watch. He just keeps ticking. That's a super dated reference. But even this year, I know it's only a 92 WRC plus, but he's 40. Give him a break. And he could play up the rest of the way. He has a 270 BABIP right now. Anthony Volpe at second. Looks like he might have gotten hurt and then had a little rehab at AAA because he has 5 games down there. But he's been fine. Gabriel Arias got the starting third base job for them. He's adequate. Has about a win right now, pacing for a 3-win season because he has good defense. Dairo Perez, this was a guy that we avoided, and they still cooked us. But this was a guy who was hurt. And you can see here, 65 power, 70 eye. What an excellent combo. He's been wonderful this year. If we face them again, that dude is scary. Benintendi at age 33 hanging out in left field, doing all right, 107 WRC plus. Dominguez, still just fragile as heck. Every sim, y'all, every sim. He never fights through it because you can change your injury proneness. If you stay healthy for a few years, you can emerge from fragility into normal. Maybe even all the way to durable. I don't know. I'm sure it would take like 10 years or whatever. But he never does. He almost always goes to wrecked. It's tough, but it's just one of those guys that if you get Dominguez, you're going to get some good years, but you know you're going to get some injury-shortened years. And this year so far, he's played all the games, or most of them, but he has a 65 WRC+, so he's struggling, unfortunately. Then Josh Lowe, he was excellent in the playoffs. He's had 2 great years. He's struggling a little bit this year, but it's a month. I'm not too worried. And then Gleyber Torres, looking good. So they have mostly the same offense. Dairo Perez is healthy. The 2 guys we traded them, and Benintendi. The pitching, Pepio, Leiter, Bieber, Alex Wood, and Brady Singer. They had Pep, Leiter for sure. They got Biebs as a free agent signing this year, and he's got major home run issues, but he's doing well so far. 3.66 ERA, 107 WHIP. Alex Wood, they got last year. Was he against us in the playoffs? He pitched. I can't remember if he pitched out of the bullpen or even started against us. He might have. I just don't remember. I don't have a meticulous enough memory to, keep every bit of that info. Char was here for a minute and she left. That's why the Char cam isn't on. She hasn't been in here for most of this. And then Brady Singer's having a rough year as their 5 starter. Elpidio's in the closer role, and he's doing well. 3.57 ERA, 115 WHIP. I'm not really surprised. It's as annoying as he was to watch him have struggles that I thought were way too bad for how good he was. He still won reliever of the year last year. I'm talking more about 2026 and the playoffs. Even despite that, I always knew he's a stud. We have to just keep trusting him. But I just didn't want to pay him $6.5 million. So I'm not surprised he's doing well there. Mauricio Sita, Justin and Steven Wilson, Zach Thompson, Domingo Armand's bitch ass, Ensign Batista, and Brad Boxberger still kicking at age 39, a couple days away from his 40th birthday here. He's just recently called up, it looks like, free agent signing on May 17th. Not just called up, just signed. So yeah, we'll see if that does anything for them. That means Judge is hurt, right? And Cole. Cole's about to be back 2 days. Judge about to be back as well. So they're getting some reinforcements here big time. Dylan Lee's out 5 to 6 months, and Anthony Rendon is day-to-day for 5 days. Age 37, making just $5 million, so they don't need him to be that great. Oh, he went and had a year at Colorado. Half a season there. Reestablished some value. Put up 2 wins for them in 56 games. Okay. Nice little kick there for Rendon. All right, so now we go to the Jays, and they're sitting at 28 and 21, theoretically tied with the Yankees, but they have one fewer game, or they have one more win and one more loss, but that nets you 4 games back still behind the Rays. A team that we had played twice in the playoffs, but we haven't seen them in a while, so there could be some catch-up here worth kind of investigating. Kirk, is he still a god? Alejandro Kirk? Oh my God, yes. And off to an amazing start this year with a 170 WRC plus. Filthy. Vlad Jr., still a beast, coming off an amazing year. Did he win MVP? Oh, he was 2024 MVP, that's right. I forget who was MVP last year. It wasn't our guy, but I can't remember who at all. Foscue, Justin Foscue, they got from Texas. And what deal? This was 2024. If it was 2024, then we've played them with Foscue, I believe. He's like a solid average guy. He's coming off a really down season last year. Excuse me, which surprisingly they played him the whole year. He had a 68 WRC plus, and he doesn't have a particularly good defensive profile. How the hell does he get 645 plate appearances? At some point, you got to start benching him a little bit, right? I mean, I guess they just stayed true to the baseball card, as they say. You know, I'm playing the back of the baseball card, which is like an old manager adage of like, if a guy has a track record but he really struggling, I'm going to go with the proven track record. Maybe that's what they were saying, but for the full year, you just keep riding the negative war. I don't know. I think at some point, I at least start getting somebody in every third game or some shit like that, you know, just to get him off his feet a little bit, because it ain't working. Jordan Westberg, who they got from Baltimore back in 2024, he's been nice, solid average, you know, slightly above, just a quality player. Great personality too, so good guy to have around. Garrett Hampson is their starting shortstop. I'm sorry, what? He's unsurprisingly awful. No offense. I mean, I can't say no offense. I called him unsurprisingly awful. I guess offense, but like not in a malicious way. But like if Garrett Hampson was a starting shortstop in 2028, barring a major change where he like morphs into a Jose Bautista type, then that would be a problem. And I think even Garrett Hampson would be like, I'm a starting shortstop in 2028. Okay, I'll do it, but I probably shouldn't be. I'm just saying, you know. Roman Anthony, big time prospect for Boston, was a Rule 5 pick for them. He has not really panned out to like a super high level. I believe his prospect type suggests that he can be a good bit better than this. But this isn't a bad outcome. Like he's a solid average outfielder. And so they're pillaging from within the division. So they got Westberg from Baltimore, Anthony from Boston. So, you know, a couple pieces from within the division. Varsho still kicking for them and still playing really well. Actually went to Houston for 1 year and came right back. He's like, Houston's a nightmare because Houston sucks in this sim. So Houston really is not a great place to be in this universe right now. So he came back. He's a captain, plays great defense, solid bat, just a nice piece. It's still just, 31, about to be 32. Nothing wrong with him. And then Anthony Santander in left. He's been fine. Or is he in right? He's in right, excuse me. He's been fine coming off a 3-win season, 28 bombs back-to-back seasons. Oh, yeah, we talked about him. I knew I recognized him. I was like, why do I feel like he's been a J? Because we looked at him as a new free agent signing from this year. That's what it was. And then Willens Astudillo. This is kind of in that Garrett Hampson level of like, I think even if you told the player, Willens Astudillo, that he was a starting DH in 2028, his eyebrows would perk up like, really? Are you sure? And they're considering that a good idea? So I don't know, that one's a little bit of a tough one. So they have some great pieces on their offense, but they got a few weaknesses too. Pitching side, Adrian Hernandez, this guy, we knew he was going to be a G. He was awesome against us in the playoffs. It was very clear that, barring injury, he was on the right trajectory to be a stud. Now, he's in that Ronnie Enriquez level, though. No, he's not. Enriquez is not nearly as good skills-wise. But what I mean is the volume piece. Because he's a 35 stamina guy, he's peaked out at 166 innings. And, I mean, you can make a case that Enriquez is better because he has put up those sub-3 ERA seasons. But from a pure skills, of course, I would bet on Hernandez over Enriquez. And you only paid him $5.7 million. You know what's funny? Check this out. They promised him a closer role. Just this year, they signed him to a closer role, and yet he's the ace. He doesn't feel bad about it, at least. I think that's kind of funny. His expectation is indeed starting rotation. It's just funny that they promised him closer. I don't know why, but he's awesome. Alejandro Melion came over from KC, and he's kind of more of a back-end rotation guy, but they're pushing him up at the top of the rotation, so that's a little dicey. In fact, after Hernandez, at least statistically, it gets really rough. I love the symmetry of actually it's not symmetry, it's a third of an inning away from real symmetry of 53 and 2/3 for all three of these guys. Instead, it's 53 and a third, 53 and 2/3, 53 and 2/3, and then 35 and 2/3 here. So you got to have a 3 and a 5 somewhere. But yeah, Hunter Green, 5.20 ERA. Alek Manoah, 5.87. He's coming on back-to-back 5+ ERA seasons. And then Jose Suarez with a 7.07. They need pitching help badly in Toronto, y'all. Their bullpen might be keeping them afloat, though. Because if you look, yeah, they've got Nardog, Andrew Nardi, Juan Abreu, Ron Williard. Even this Dahian Santos isn't too bad. Brandon Eisert, who's the most skilled of the bunch. Actually, Nardog is, excuse me. But Eisert's right there with the really strong skills. He's actually pulling them down. He's got a 5.40 ERA, 175 whip. But he has a 22% strikeout minus walk. This 4.56 BABIP is so stupid. It will come down. So yeah, the bullpen is kind of salvaging them right now, along with a great offense. But you can see the pitching. Oh, here you go too. 15th in bullpen ERA, 13th in starters ERA, 15th in runs allowed, 6th in WAR. The skills are there for them to really improve their pitching. And if they're hitting, even if it gives back a little bit and doesn't stay first, second, third, and like everything, as their pitching gets better, that balance should still work. So even though they got a couple dead spots in the roster with Hampson and Astudillo, they have more than enough everywhere else and pitching that has upside. They need a shortstop and an arm, though, badly. But they're doing pretty well right now, so who am I to say, right? Baltimore now. They're 25 and 22. They have Acuna. We did know. They have Acuna and Soto. That's amazing. With Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, and Adley Rutschman, too. Could you imagine that in real life? There's no way you can imagine that. That'd be crazy. How'd they get Acuna? I do not remember. They gave Juan Sandoval, who's pretty good, 60 upside. I mean, there's something there. Carlos Cordero, who's got some upside, but man, he better freaking meet it. Because even if he meets it, he's not that good. But if he doesn't, he's terrible. And then a guy named Phil Surprise. And Surprise, he's kind of decent. So, I mean, they got some talent. But it's Ronald Acuna Jr. Oh, they've only gotten 7 games out of him. Oh, wow. So he opened with an injury. Just what you want. April 2nd, he fractures his thumb 6 weeks. Was that like 2 days after opening day? Opening day was the 30th. So yeah, it was like 3 games into the season. He's out for 6 weeks. That's crushing when you get a new superstar like that. So he's just back recently. And so now they're actually going to finally kind of get to see what's up with Acuna. Oh, and the Braves paid the money. Oh my God, what a fleece. What a fleece job. Unbelievable. All right, let's go position by position. Rutsch, still a god. He's a free agent after this year. If we had any money, I'd be interested. But actually, I will say this. I don't want this to happen. But if for some reason it keeps being janky and they won't let us re-sign Torque or Green, but then when they come off the books, we end up having money, I will turn my attention to Rutschman. Don't think I won't. But anyway, we need to figure out the re-sign thing. I got to keep Torque or Green. Ideally both. I want to figure out a way to keep both, but I got to keep at least one of them. I'll freak out if I can't. Anyway, that's not what this is about. Kyle Caros, got to be related to Eric. Oh, wow. He's kind of a stud. 60 contacts, 75 gaps, 70 home run. That's disgusting. His plate skills are a little rough, 45 I, 40 avoid K, but with that kind of power and contact, it does not matter. He hasn't fully gotten going yet, but he's 25. Like he's a plus hitter. He hit 41 bombs last year. Actually, you know what? I say he hasn't fully gotten going. That might be not the peak necessarily, but it might be close to the peak of what this profile can do because the plate skills are bad. Like they're below average, right? You're going to strike out more than average and you're going to walk less than average. So that's going to hold you back a little bit. But no, it's not really the peak. Obviously, this profile can deliver better than an 800 OPS. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure that it has like the 6-win season. Especially because he doesn't add defensively either. He's at first base. It's hard. Like you got to be next level as a hitter to deliver like those 6-7+ win seasons at first base. Jackson Holiday, stud. Off to an excellent start. Going into his second full season. Played 63 games in 26, 127 last year, 46 so far this year. So we haven't seen the best of him yet, but it's going to be nuts when it comes to fruition. Ramon Urias is still in Baltimore. That is impressive, making $8.8 million as well. Has he been here the whole time? He sure has. And he wasn't very good last year with an 81 WRC plus, despite playing the full year. Actually, he was league average. He was replacement level, I mean, not league average. He was 0 WAR on the button. But he's been better this year, up to a 96 with 0.4 WAR. Had a 3-win season back in 2026. And a solid 1.5 win half season in 2025, which if you take 1.5 times 2, 3 wins. So he's been a 3-win type player for a good amount of time. Because looking back here, 2023 and 2024 were pretty good. He missed the half season of 25. And then, so really the only down year has been 2027 for Urias. Good for him. Solid player. You know, he and Luis are good players. They're brothers. Luis Urias is in Seattle now. He was with Boston, got moved out to Seattle. I still kind of believe in him too, as far as like real life goes. Gunnar Henderson over at short, off to a slow start, 200 plate appearances. You know, the sample's starting to get big, but we're not freaking out. You know, he'd be the talk of the fantasy world. Oh my God. You know, people in leagues saying, should I cut at Gunnar Henderson? No, do not cut a star level player. And he looks like, you know, pretty close to a superstar level player. 19 homers, 21 steals. Like, he hasn't been the god. If I'm trying to picture this in a fantasy world, like, he's been good. He's almost kind of had, it's a little like Bregman-y with some stolen bases. Like, it's a legit badass real life player, and it's not the same walk rate. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison. But what I'm saying is, I think Bregman's a better real life player than fantasy, and I think that's what Gunnar's been here so far. But anybody that would, you know, 200 plate appearances in, if you're talking about cutting like a top 5 round type fantasy pick, no, you don't do that. I don't care how bad the 200 plate appearances are. You just don't do that. You gotta give him a chance to get back. And so we'll see if he gets back. That would obviously be huge for them. And then they have Juan Soto, who they've had for a while. They signed him in the winter of 2024, going into the 2025 season. So he's been with them for a lot of the sim, and he's been amazing. He's Juan Soto. Are we surprised? No, of course we're not. And they're paying him a pretty fair wage. Like $33.5 million is not bad. When you see that Colson Montgomery deal, I mean, I would take this way over that one, even if he's just a DH, because these skills are going to age so beautifully. Like that eye at 95, like that, it breaks the scale, for God's sakes. So he should age brilliantly. And even though $35.5 million is, of course, a big investment, you can afford it with somebody like this, because he's going to deliver. Sorry, we weren't done with Baltimore. I don't know why I was going back. Cedric the Entertainer playing center, and he's had a pretty good sim. He's off to a really rough start this year, 66 WRC plus, but other than that, he's been nice, which is good, because in real life, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous that, you know, we've seen that peak, and that was awesome, but, you know, that's probably going to be the high water mark. That's not even really risky to say that. A guy comes out of nowhere and puts up a 30-30 season at age 26. Okay, it's easy to call that the high water mark. The question right now with Cedric Mullins is, can he sustain being at least a league average player? He's been a 107 OPS plus and then a 101 last year. And he only played 116 games last year too. So maybe you say, okay, a little bit of injury, you know, it wasn't his best. Let's see what he can do this year. But I think if he comes out not playing that well initially, I think the Orioles are going to start taking time away from him. They have too much talent coming up to just sit there and wait. But the Mullins in this universe, he was awesome. 5-win seasons in 23, 24, 25. Down to 2 wins in 2026, and then 1.4 last year in only 48 games, so missed a bunch of time. So, you know, he's had a little falter at this point, but not enough to run away yet. Whereas in real life, it could be a really dicey by 2028 if we don't see a turnaround from him. And then Acuna's in right. He's a stud. Luis Toribio is their DH, and he's a solid league average type bat. He had a rough year last year. Man, another one of these guys that gets 600 plate appearances with below league average production. I don't know. I think at some point you have to just try somebody else and see, can they catch fire? Can they flex some skills that maybe we didn't know they had or something? I don't know that I'm just running a guy out there at an 80 WRC plus, especially at DH, designated hitter. That's kind of the big part of his job. Anyway, Seiya Suzuki's on their bench. He's been playing great. Maybe he should take some of Toribio's playing time. So is bitch-ass Addison Russell. Where the hell has this piece of garbage been? Oh, yeah, he was in the KBO. But now he's back, and he sucks good. Unbelievable, that guy. All right, pitching. Oh, Ignacio Feliz, we're familiar with this guy with his insane stuff. Now, because he has 45 control, he's volatile. And so you're going to be maybe surprised to learn that he has a 4.73 ERA and a 1.38 whip, despite a 27% strikeout minus walk, which is amazing. But a 4.03 BABIP, so another guy getting eaten alive by BABIP, and it will regress. I mean, there's never a guarantee, but if I'm betting, of course, I'm going to bet that it's going to regress. But outside of that big 2025, he's been a bit more middling than you would expect for somebody with his just obscene stuff. But when you don't know where it's going, you know what this is? You know who this is right now? Dylan Cease. This is Dylan Cease is hell. With less innings. Dylan Cease at least eating $180 plus, right? He had at least $180 last year. Now I got to check my work after I said that. 177, close enough. We round up here. Come on. Actually, it's very Cease-ian. I should have just stuck with the comp because the extra innings are not enough to really change that comp. Trevor Rogers has been out here for a couple years. Actually, he went to Milwaukee after the 2024 season. So he's been out of Miami for a while now in his second year with Baltimore, and he's off to a solid start. He's all right, but he's kind of back into the rotation type guy. He really shouldn't be a number 2. Pablo Lopez is not the guy that he is in Minnesota right now. He's been with Atlanta for 2 years, now 3 years with Baltimore. This is the worst of the 3. Home runs are becoming a big problem. He's got a 2.1 homer 9, and that's just not going to work. Framberto's out here, Framber Valdez. He's been here for 4 years. Amazing first year with them, 2.94 ERA, but it's been a struggle since. 5.02, 4.39, and so far 4.99 this year. So not great. Kyle Wright, 5.40 ERA, his second year with Baltimore. It hasn't been good. He was bad last year, 5.80 ERA, 5.40 this year. And yes, just know, I try not to just sit here and just read a ton of numbers. I always want to put the caveat out, though, that I'm not just always judging things by ERA. Y'all know this, but I just want to make sure. If I say an ERA and I'm like, oh, he's been bad with a 5.40 ERA, you can trust that I've looked at the other stats to know that ERA is at least believable based on his core skills. I just want to get that out there, and so you guys don't think I'm just going off of ERA and be like, oh, that's all he ever talks about is ERA. He loves ERA and batting average. The only stats he ever uses. No, absolutely not. Bullpen wise, they've got Dylan Tate. He's been a standout. So is this guy. Who is this? Nick Jones, their closer. Holy shit. 80, 55, 45. He has an 0.46 ERA so far in 20 innings with a 102 whip. That's pretty good. A 35% strikeout minus walk rate. That will play. This just in. So, okay, they're okay. They're 25 and 22. They're in the mix. They've got some pieces working on offense. Like, they got star power. They got super star power here. Obviously, they have six blues? Six blues on offense, which is 70 grade or better. That's disgusting. So, they need to be good. Like I said, Rutschman's done after this year, unless they re-sign him. Oh, what's Bautista up to? He's making 11.6 mil. Was he in their bullpen and I just glossed over him? Oh, yeah, probably was. But he's a free agent. Cal Wright. So they're not losing anybody big except Rutschman. But this is the last year with Rutschman. And how have they been throughout the sim? They made the playoffs every year since 24, and they won the 2025 World Series. So they've done well. So if Rutschman does end up leaving, they can at least say the Rutschman time period was excellent and successful. Tons of playoff appearances and a World Series. You take that. But obviously, I think they're going to want to keep him. We'll see if they're able to. I kind of hope not, because I want him. I love Adley Rutschman, dude. He's so badass. All right, so we're at 46 minutes, and I'm not even through the at least. What possessed me to think that this could be one video? What in my stupid little brain that knows me, like I know myself, right? And I still was under the impression that I could do this in an episode without it being 9 hours. Clown. Absolute clown. All right, we'll do the AL. And then we'll see where it's at. It's going to be too long to do the NL too. Let's just be honest. Boston, bringing up the rear at 20 and 28. Team that I feel like I have a decent read on. I don't know why we haven't played them in the playoffs. Maybe I've just looked at the team a bit. Actually, you know what? I think I was, because they made some big some big free agent moves. They brought in Marte and Fraley, so I have looked at this team somewhat recently. They got big dumper Cal Raleigh behind the dish. He has a hot 12 WRC plus right now. That's not great. This just in. Ketel Marte playing first for them is a curious decision. Now, he's not a very good fielder anywhere else, but I still don't feel comfortable playing him at first. I think I'd rather play him in left and build him up out there, or even right, or even second. I don't know. Do you want to get bad defense or mediocre defense at second just to feel like you're getting something, or put a very non-first base type profile at first base? I don't know. I don't know what the better answer is, but I don't love seeing him there for 16 mil. Not that 16 mil is crazy. It's just he's off to a rough start. Taylor Walls, he can't really hit. He's a defender. He hasn't really played much. He might be starting right now due to injury. Oh, you know what? I haven't been checking the injuries on every team. Guys, I'm really bad at this. I'm sorry. I did take notes, and I planned out, everything here, because that's something that sometimes I kind of create a plan in my head, and I'm like, you should have written some of this down, or at least typed it out. You know what I mean? But I should have laid out exactly what I wanted to cover for every team, because it has not been uniform. So the Rays don't have any injuries. We know Cole and Judge are coming back soon for the Yankees. Joe Jimenez is out for 3 weeks for the Jays. Zach McCambley, Corey Julks, Trevor Story. Okay, he's a player, but he's out 9 months. And then Yermin Mercedes is out 6 weeks, but he's Yermin Mercedes, no offense. The Orioles are missing Zach Showalter. He's nobody, no offense, at least in this world. James Norwood and Zach Kelly. Nothing too big there. And then the Red Sox. They are missing Bailey Falter, control artist, and then Eric Swanson out 4 to 5 months with torn labrum. All right. Don't forget the injuries, Paul, when we go in the Central and the West. Rafael Devers, rough start to the year, 74 WRC plus, but he's been Rafael Devers, which is to say very good. Making 31 mil this year. Oh my God, still has several years left on the deal. I didn't realize it was quite this long, but I guess it makes sense. So they've got him for a long, long time. Now, he's got a great profile that should age all right. The problem is the plate skills are bad, 50-50 right now. And so, as this contact gap and home run start to come down, I think it'll be a starker drop. So That's quite literally the opposite of aging gracefully, so I shouldn't frame it like that. Turns out he probably won't age gracefully. It could be a stark drop. It's just the power's really going to have to stabilize everything. So if that goes, he's in big trouble. But for now, it's still there, and I think he'll rebound within this year. Marcelo Meyer is also off to a slow start. A lot of studs off to slow starts. Not that we're not seeing any good performances, but man, I'm surprised by how many guys I'm clicking on who are 60 plus rating, and they are just not doing well almost 2 months in. It happens though. He's got an 84 WRC plus, decent bat, solid glove, like just a good player, 25 years old, only making 3.9, still in arbitration. Like he's a big time centerpiece for them still. Jake Fraley, we talked about him when he signed. He's getting 18 mil. He's awesome. I think it came down to the fact that he has been a platoon player, and it looks like Boston's finally taken the chance on him as a full-timer, because I looked and I thought he had been hurt because he has some injury history in real life. I was like, oh, he just keeps getting hurt. We looked at it. Nope. He has 3 days of injuries in this sim. So Cincinnati just didn't think he was a full-time player. Boston said, here's 18 mil at age 32. We want you to play every day. And they're being rewarded. A 141 WRC plus and 1.6 WAR so far. Oh, this guy, Doug Cloud. Swami is his nickname. Old Swami Cloud is the reigning rookie of the year. Just a stud off rip. Came in, dropped 7.5 wins on the league. Call it 8. 126 runs and a 341 average. Both led the league. Just awesome. And he's picking up right where he left off. This guy's going to be a force. He and Meyer are definitely their two building blocks for the future. Andy Pages is out and left. Or out and right, excuse me. Why do I keep calling right field left? I do it in game too. Whenever I'm announcing the games, at least once a game, I will miscall left, right, or vice versa. I don't know why. I am but a moron. Pages is not great, 76 WRC plus, about a league average type guy though the last couple of years, so he can get back to that. He's an all or nothing kind of power guy. Got the sideways middle finger profile there, so that's just going to breed volatility. And then Daryl Ernez is the DH. And, he's okay. He's toting a 90 WRC plus. Got a decent speed profile. Can play some of the field if they need him to, but right now at DH, he's fine. Casas has been relegated to a bench role, which is a little bit surprising to me. Because I'm looking at Ernez and I'm like, why wouldn't you platoon those two? Should Ernez really be starting against righties? He doesn't have a crazy platoon split, but he does get 5 contact and 5 avoid K against lefties. So, I don't know. I'm a Casas fan in real life. I do understand, like, he's got a bit of an all or nothing profile, and you can see here at 35 avoid Ks. So, that's going to breed volatility in this game big time. But he also has a 16% walk rate this year. He was at 12% for the last 2 full seasons. So, he takes his walks. He has his power. I'd be starting him. But they disagree. So, whatever. Wyatt Olds is their number 1 starter. He's got 80 stuff, but 45 movement and 50 control. So, when his stuff isn't on, I'm sure he gets beat up. But right now, he's been pretty good. 22% strikeout minus walk for each of the last 3 years, pretty much. And 20% in 2025. So he's been a really consistent guy. Pretty solid, at least as far as the core skills. And then, your BABIP, your home run suppression, and plain old good luck or bad luck kind of drives your ERA from there. But he's been a solid mid to upper 3s ERA guy, except for 2026 when it was at 4.47. And that just so happens to be a 1.5 homer 9 that year. So... but he's living off of this stuff. That's the thing. And this is pretty accurate to real life, where if you have legit 80 grade stuff, it can cover a lot of mistakes. It can paper over a lot. And that's like, this is where the analogy breaks down with Olds specifically, because his stuff is built off of a disgusting slider and changeup. But this is kind of the concept behind velo. Right? Like, velo doesn't inherently make you good, but it increases your margin for error big time and will keep you getting opportunities. Like if you have good stuff, whether that's from velocity or from movement and command, but like if you have good stuff, you're going to just keep getting opportunities. He's a weird case here because he's a side armor with a nasty slider that apparently doesn't hamper him at getting lefties out. I would think that he would be like just a crazy, I don't know, like Tyler Rogers type is what I'm envisioning with a side armor with a nasty slider like this, but he's a legit full-on starter. So Wyatt Olds, Luis Perales, somebody they had from the jump. Yeah. Somebody they've had, international free agent back from 2019, was a multi-time top 100 prospect, jumped all the way up to number 8 in 2024. And since then, he started for the first time last year and did pretty well. 4.30 ERA, 1.46 whip. That's not bad for a debut at age 24. It wasn't his debut in the majors, but it was his debut starting. He had 3 relief years before that, totaling about 100 innings. And then a $1.78 last year. And then so far this year, doing even better. 3.09 ERA, 1.22 whip. So Perales, pretty solid starter. Put him in that core with Meyer and Cloud. James Hayes is their number 3 guy. And, you know, he's 24 years old, so he's got youth on his side, but that's about the best I can say about him. 5.50 ERA. Matthew Boyd. Boys, stand up. He made $10 million, and I remember pointing that out because we talked about Marte, Fraley, and Boyd, and I was like, oof, that's a little higher than I'd want to go, even coming off of the big relief year. The thing that got me was that they were going to start him, excuse me. I knew I had a hiccup coming, and I was like, just get out. But yeah, they're starting him, and it's kind of working. 4.25 ERA, 1.34 whip. That's perfectly capable for the middle back end of the rotation. And then Clark Schmidt, former Yankee, he's come over here and just struggled in 32 2/3. Does he have an opener? Has to, right? Because he has 6 games, but 0 starts. So he's getting an opener. Yeah, and then going... a full starter's complement. Okay, that's kind of interesting. It's not working, unfortunately. He's got bad results, but it is interesting. And then as far as their relievers go, just want to see if there's any like major standouts. They've got some actually really good ERAs here, except this Andrew Taylor. Oh, this Andrew Taylor guy got kicked out of the rotation, maybe for Schmidt, or maybe he starts for him. Maybe he's the opener. No, these are legit starts. No, he got kicked out for failure. He got kicked out due to suckiness. It happens. All right. So that's the AL East. We're at an hour. Y'all, this was too ambitious. I can't do this. This will be a 2-hour episode if I do 2 more divisions. Minimum. All right. So this will be the AL East roundup. What I'm going to do, formulating here, we're going to do 2 divisions over each of the next 3 episodes. Well, no, we'll go 2, 2, and 1. We're going to do both Wests next episode, then the East and Central from the NL, and then we'll save our AL Central for the last episode because that's the one we're most familiar with anyway. So let me write this down so I don't forget. So team by team updates. We did the AL East. Then we'll do both Wests in F43. Sorry, I know it's annoying to sit here and read as I'm writing to y'all what I'm going to do, but I just want to make sure I have it. And then AL Central F45. Okay, so that'll be better. Sorry if you got super excited for the entire rundown. I want to actually see what's going on. And so I don't want to just gloss over them. And so that's going to take some time, right? Even if all we do is look at this page and I don't like click through to the lineup and then the pitching tab, even this one is going to be a lot of info that I'm going to want to go over. The whole point is to learn the league more. So I'm fine with it taking long. It just can't all be one episode. So I overpromised there and I'm under-delivering. I apologize. You're supposed to do the other one. Under-promise and over-deliver. But my bad on that. So, and we'll still have the farm report. The farm report will be with the NL Wests. Actually, you know what? It should be with the AL Central one. So we're punting the farm report. It's still going to come. I promise. So next episode, and obviously we're going to progress the season during this too. I'm not saying that we're not going to do anything else with the season. But I'm saying next episode we're going to get, I don't know, into June at some point, and then do both Wests. Then the episode after that will be like the draft and maybe one of the NL Central or East, because we do have to fit in other stuff. So maybe it's draft and NL Central, and then deadline and the NL East. The August stretch run with the AL Central. How about that? So we do both Wests next episode with like a standard, hey, we're in June, here's how we're doing. Then the draft with the NL Central, deadline in the NL East, August in the AL Central. And then we will learn in the league, because I want to know more about what's going on in the league. I love creating the storylines with our players and all that, but I like being immersed within the league as well. So we will do that. I will leave you with a snapshot of the team stats here. You can see. Oh, I should point out that Roger Planting is now starting at catcher. Yeah, that would probably be a big thing to let y'all know. Sorry about that. We put him in AA, remember? And I said, let him cook. And he did. He went out and took Player of the Month. I said, okay, great. Moved him up to AAA for about 5 games. Then I was doing kind of a random check-in, and I saw both catchers playing like shit. And I was like, let me re-scout Planting, because he had moved down to high. I did that. They came back big. Current contact up 10. Potential contact up 5. Current and potential power up 5. Bottom line was, he's ready. So not only does he bring kind of a Jinsong Show bat, but with better than Patrick Bailey defense. So this is all coming together perfectly, because another reason that had sparked me to even check this out was I was starting to look around for catchers to trade for. And I was starting to regret the Jonah Heim situation. Remember, he was offered to us in some pretty fair deals. I was like, man, maybe I should have just gotten him. And he's been doing fine. 100 WRC plus, 1.2 WAR. Like he's doing good, doing very well. But 25.5 mil, and they weren't paying 100% with us like they did for the Cubs. But I was like, man, maybe I should have done that. But then I was like, hello, we have Planting. And so here we go. Roger Planting, our Dutch minor league signee. Hasn't done much in his 9 games, but it's 9 games. Who gives a crap? And then Bailey, I think, is still starting against lefties. No, playing every other game against lefties and every 4th game against righties is what we'll do. So yeah, there you go. You can spot check the team. You can pause and take a look at that if you want. There's a pitcher sort by innings. We are back to 14-12. Who else did I send down? Joel Baez. I think we knew that one. Oh, Teodo. I sent out Teodo. Yeah, he was struggling and in a bad mood. No, he wasn't in a bad mood. He was actually in a wonderful mood. And I was thinking that because he's struggling, maybe I could send him down and it wouldn't crush his mood. And that's what happened. He's been dog shit down here too. He's starting, and maybe, I don't hate it. Send a guy like this down to AAA and see maybe he can turn that talent into something bigger. But it's going horribly. So I'll let it go a little longer. Maybe like another month, but then I'll pull the plug. I don't want him to just get crushed either. But we'll see how it goes. Guerrero was another guy we sent down to start. Waiver claim that we had. He's been doing well. 4.24 ERA, but an 0.96 whip is very good. 23% strikeout minus walk. And where's Shambuko? Oh, he must be hurt. Damn it. Out 1 to 2 weeks. Sore shoulder back on May 22nd. April 22nd. So he's already been out for a month, and he has 1 to 2 more weeks. But he's been pitching brilliantly. Damn. Hopefully he comes back and continues to do well. All right, so we'll cap it there. Again, couple games out on a lose-4 streak. Had an amazing April, mediocre May so far. I'll get into June by the next time I come around with hopefully some good news. Hopefully we just continue to do well. I think we're fine. Not worried about where we're at right now, and we'll keep moving through the season. By the way, Ajuma Menenyo, 25 steals. What a stud. Talk to y'all later. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Peace.